Hi, I'm Bob Weir with another interview of People in the News in North Texas. My guest today is Amy Bundgus, who is running for place 2 on the Denton Independent School District Board of Trustees in the May 1st election. Good morning, Amy.
Good morning, Bob. Thank you for having me today on this beautiful morning. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you for taking the time to speak with the viewers who are going to be voting on May 1st. So how about if we begin with you giving a brief description of your background in education and administration?
Sure. So I am originally from a farm in rural Minnesota, and I was public school raised and educated. I then attended Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa, where I obtained a bachelor's degree in political science with minors in economics and sociology. I have lived here in North Texas for 16 years, and my husband and I live in Lantana. We've been in Lantana for about 10. And through our journey here, we have 7 children. You did hear that right, a combined 7 children. And my kids have been through 5 of the district schools, Borman, Blanton, McMath, Harpool, and now I have a child in Geyer. I think I am the only candidate running who actually still has children in the schools.
Okay, how many children do you have?
We have a combined 7. He has 5 and I have 2.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yes.
I love big families. I think that's
Yeah,
great.
it's exciting.
I came from a big family.
Oh, how many in yours?
And 7.
Oh, there you go. So
Yeah.
you know about that.
Yeah, so
Wonderful.
I always admire that. All right, how about specifically, Amy, what is the job of a DISD board member?
Sure. So there are a variety of duties that come with being a board member. Of course, one of the first things that everyone thinks about is the budget, oversight of the budget. But there's also oversight of policy issues. The board hires the superintendent. The board establishes the vision and the mission for the district. So there are a variety of things, but I think what a lot of people think of first and foremost is budget and buildings and curriculum, things like that.
All right, how many board members are there?
There are 7 board members.
And how long is the term of office?
Yeah, so each board member has a 3-year term, and those terms are staggered. So about every year or 2, another board member's seat will come up for vote. So that's kind of how it works. Right now, this go around, there's my position, place 2, that's up for a vote. And then there's also a couple candidates for place 1.
Okay, and many of these questions are just informational because a lot of people watch these because they learn from it. They may not know much about the position. So everybody tells me they get a bit of an education every time they see some of these videos because they learn about the position. So I'll ask you about how often do they meet, the board members?
The board meets the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of every month at 6 o'clock in the evening at the district facility that's on Locust up in Denton. There can be other meetings that are scheduled here and there, but those are the primary meetings. And I just add 2 things. All the meetings are available for anyone to dial into and watch live. And you can also go back, the recordings are available, and you can go back for quite a while and watch past meetings. So if anyone is interested in what the board has been doing, it's open and available for anyone to go back and watch. And the last thing I'd say is, I didn't mention earlier, the positions are at large. So for community members watching today, you can vote on anyone up for place 1 or place 2. It's at large across the district.
Right, that's a good point. You know, that people can always access the videos of past meetings. So there's plenty of information and ways to learn about these various positions. So, all right, you already mentioned that the board hires the superintendent. Does the board work with the superintendent to establish policy for DISD?
Yes. So yes, the board hires the superintendent and then works hand in hand with he or she, and of course now it's he, to take recommendations and implement policy and really work together on what the superintendent and the board feels is best for the community. But the board does rely heavily on that superintendent position. So it's important to have a strong superintendent for the district.
Okay, what is the size of the DISD budget?
The 2020-21 approved budget for the district was just under 300 million, 299.6 million. And that encompasses everything from curriculum to transportation, to extracurriculars, to food, a number of things. And that information is also out there and available. With a quick Google, you can get all that information for parents and community members who are interested in seeing where the funds go.
All right, you mentioned some of the places that the money goes to. Also teachers' salaries?
Yes, absolutely. Salaries are a big component.
And that would also be for, let's say, building schools?
Yes, though, of course, bonds come into play with building schools. And last time the district had a bond was 2018. It was a pretty sizable bond. It was almost 800 million.
Uh-huh. Okay, how about what is the current status of teachers and students during this COVID-19 pandemic? How many are being taught in person versus remotely?
Yeah, so we, fortunately for Texas, our students returned back to in-person learning if they so chose, mid to late fall of last year. It's interesting, I was speaking to some people from the East Coast this week, and their kids just returned to in-person learning for the first time this week after a year of being out. So we have had a very different experience here. That having been said, the whole experience, of course, has been very difficult on families and particularly teachers, because when we returned, they were pursuing both the at-home learning and the hybrid model of kids going back and forth. So it's really hard on the teachers for a while. There was a lot of teacher burnout. But right now we've gotten to the point where we have about 8,000 students who remain in virtual learning, and that's about a quarter of the kids in the district. I will say that Denton ISD has stepped forward and is offering an online academy coming in the fall for those families who want to continue virtual learning on a permanent basis. It will be offered to elementary and middle school. And so that's kind of a new offering that not a lot of other districts have, and that's coming soon.
Excellent, excellent. Now, how would you suggest that students and teachers make up for the lost educational instruction of the past year?
Yeah, that's going to be a really big deal. So already in the district, we have about 32% of our kids who are what we call at risk. At risk can mean a variety of things. But one of the things that, one of the categories of at risk are those kids who are not testing where they need to be. So what we know about learning is that K through third grade is really about learning to read, for example, and then 3rd through 12 is about reading to learn. So when we measure these kids' performance, for example, in 3rd grade, we may see that they're not where they need to be from a learning perspective. And with COVID, that's going to be significantly higher, potentially, that at-risk number.
Right.
So the challenge will be is how to bring the kids up to speed while working with the budget we have. I am in favor of a number of things. I think that the district is doing some of these things. So let me just say that the teachers are very sharp cookies and they know this. They've been evaluating the children and they have a good understanding of where the kids are. We're going to need to be able to offer potentially bringing back retired teachers. We're going to need to offer, I would like to see very active recruiting with our local college campuses to see if we can bring in recent grads to tutor and mentor. I'd like to see robust partnerships with the community, businesses, people willing to come in and give their time, parents, grandparents. We're going to need to have after school, before school, potentially even summer programs. And we're going to need to have robust measuring systems so we can keep track of where our kids are. For a youth, that we'll have years to do that. For our older learners, it's going to be a compressed timeline. So we're going to have to be very creative.
Yeah, that's very important. There's nothing more important to the advancement of a country and a culture than school teachers. I mean, they mold the future for this country, so they're so valuable. That's why having the teachers and the children lose a year. That's I've been wondering, like a lot of other people that I know have been wondering, how do they make up for this? And will children have to lose a year of education, or are they going to be able to get enough to uh, stay in line with the educational needs for their next term?
Yeah, I mean, these are, as we know, unprecedented times. We've never dealt with something like this. So we are going to need leadership on the board and from our superintendent that can really understand learning needs, be very hand in hand with the teachers, and really be able to respond dynamically to student performance. It's going to be a challenge, but I believe the district has strong people in place to do that.
All right, Amy, if elected to the board, what experience would you bring to the educational system in DISD?
So I mentioned before, and I'd like to say it again. So I am a parent with a child in the district. And I think that's important. I don't think any of the other candidates or board members have a child in the district, but I feel like that's important because when I send my kid off each day, I am invested in what is happening with him in the classroom. And I am running on being the voice for the parent and the teacher and bringing that voice to the board. But I would also like to share that from a professional perspective, I have had a career in learning and leadership development in corporate America. So what that means is my job day in and day out is to understand what skills are needed for the jobs of today and the future. You know, we're hearing a lot about changes coming in jobs, and the belief is that by 2025, about half of our workers will need to be reskilled because jobs are changing. Half. 2025 is not far away. My job from a career perspective is to understand and have an eye to the future. What will these jobs be and how do we need to prepare for them? So I bring that voice to the board, and I think that's going to be important. The world is changing and we want children to graduate and be productive members of our society. We're going to need to shift how we learn and what our kids are learning.
Exactly right. You have to keep up with that change. Okay, what type of campaigning will you be doing, and do you have a website?
I do. Okay. My website is amyfordentonisd.bundg.us. You can also find me on Facebook at Amy for Denton ISD. We've been doing all kinds of campaigning, block walking. The district is, I believe, 180 square miles. I feel like I've walked about half of that already. Obviously not, but my shoes are getting worn out. We've been doing a lot of forums, candidate forums. We've been doing and are planning some more meet and greets. And to be honest, I've spent a lot of time asking parents and teachers to call me. And I spent a lot of time on the phone hearing what their concerns are and how I can bring those concerns to the board. So those have been a lot of my focus areas.
All right, and your websites are in the written portion of this also, so people will be able
Oh, thank
to
you.
click on those, so they'll be able to access it quickly. All right, now we're coming to a close. Amy, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, thanks, Bob. I appreciate that. So my platform and what I'm running on is probably a little bit different than we've seen in the past and from some of the other candidates. One of the main things I'm running on is a focus on curriculum. I have been approached by many parents and teachers who have specific curriculum concerns. And so I'm running on a platform of full transparency between the classroom and the home. I feel like parents need to be or should be fully engaged and understand what's going on in the classroom if that's what they'd like to do. And so I want to open that up and have that be full transparency. I'm also running on a platform of skill development. And so we know that when our kids go to school, we're doing college readiness and college prep programs, and that's excellent. But we have a number of our youth who will not go on to college for a variety of reasons. college is extraordinarily expensive. It's not for everyone. And what we're seeing with the future jobs is a lot of need for jobs like HVAC and fire and EMT and nursing programs and jobs that you can gain by getting a certificate or some type of thing like that, not necessarily a four-year degree. So I'm running on having even more programs for the youth so that when they graduate, they can walk off that stage and walk into gainful employment. I mean, we want all our students to be contributing members of our community. We want them all prepared. So I don't want them to graduate and fall off the radar. Now, the district is getting engaged and they're opening LaGrone Academy in the fall. And that is a facility that is going to focus more on skill development, careers that don't require college, as well as college readiness. So the district is going in that direction. And I say, bravo, let's full charge ahead. There'll be a lot of those types of jobs available in the future. They're great jobs. They pay well, be good for our students. And then lastly, I'm running on a platform of focus on the budget. I'm hearing from some community members that would like better insight into bonds, tax rates. And so I'd really like to drill into that. I have a bit more fiscally conservative approach. Now, fortunately in Denton, we are growing by leaps and bounds. We're one of the fastest growing counties in the entire country. So we are having a lot of additional homes popping up and our property values are going up. So that's been very good for the school's bottom line. But I'd like to bring a keen eye to that budget and make sure we are working very hard with the taxpayers' hard-earned money. So those are some of my platforms. I will say that I am not a candidate who's on all kinds of boards across the community. I am focused purely and solely on this school board role. I think I have the right skills and the right background, and I don't want to be distracted by anything else. So that's how I approach it, and I hope anyone listening would consider voting for me. And I am available. Drop me an email. I would like to visit with anyone who has concerns.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, I think you make some excellent points. I particularly like the one about teaching the students how to transition from school into college or into employment. I think there's not enough attention applied to that. Kids get their education and they're out and they don't know what to do with themselves. Nobody has prepared them for what happens after school. So I particularly like that. Well, all right, Amy, that concludes the questioning, and I want to just then thank you and say good luck to you in the election.
Thank you so much, Bob. I appreciate it. And thanks to everybody for listening.
All right. Have a good weekend.
You too. Take care.